Hello and welcome. I'm Father Chris Schaffner, the pastor here at St. Anne's Church in Lisieux, and I'm so excited to offer you the fourth installment in our stained glass window series here at St. Anne's. Today, we're going to study and take a bit closer look at the largest and most prominent stained glass window here in the church, and that is the large rose window situated above our choir loft. When our church was first built, this window greeted all of our visitors as they entered through the main doors of the church. But later, as the neighborhood around the church was built up, most of our visitors began to enter through side doors. But we can all still very clearly see the rose window if we look above the choir loft at the back of the church. You may remember from our last video that a rose window is made up of a number of smaller individual panels or windows, each containing images that are part of a central theme. And we can discover that theme by looking at the image in the center of this rose window. And here, what do you see? It's a bird, specifically a dove, one of the traditional symbols representing the Holy Spirit, the third person of the Trinity. The Holy Spirit is commonly known as the sanctifier, or the person of the Trinity that helps us to become holy. And he does that by offering gifts and blessings to help us to live like God wants us to. You'll notice then two rings of images around the dove. The images closest to the center are very similar and largely decorative. But if you look very closely, each one contains the name of a Christian virtue. The virtues are defined by our faith as a habitual and firm disposition to do the good. In other words, they're good habits that we form, and we grow devoted to practicing those in our life, and they reflect the very life of Jesus Christ himself. It's the work of the Holy Spirit to pour these out into our hearts as gifts. So let's take a quick look at the 12 virtues depicted here and define them for us. Chastity is purity of mind, body, and speech. Many times we'll refer to chastity, especially when it comes in terms of sexual purity. Faith is that firm belief in what God has revealed to us about Jesus Christ, his Son, and his teachings. Hope is the firm belief that God will grant us good things in the future. Concord is the unity of heart that is formed among people that brings about harmony in relationships. This unity is first and foremost founded in Christ. Peace is that tranquility and calm in the heart, no matter what the circumstances may be. Obedience is the willingness to submit ourselves to the desires and needs of others, especially if that person is an authority figure. Prudence is the ability to make wise decisions, taking into account the circumstances and the effects of our decisions. Perseverance is being steadfast or committed to doing something, even if it's very difficult or uncomfortable. Humility is the ability to live in the truth of who you are, both in your strengths and in your weaknesses. Strength is not physical prowess, but strength of spirit, which entails courage and self-control, a moral strength to do what is right and to not be afraid. Charity is better known as love, to desire the good for another person, no matter the cost. Patience is the ability to bear the burdens of things that are inconvenient or things that cause some level of discomfort or suffering. If we want to grow more and more in these virtues, then we have to turn to the Holy Spirit and ask him to pour those gifts into our heart. And we can do so with a very simple prayer, which I'll teach you now. A simple mantra that we can pray throughout the day. Come, Holy Spirit, come. Come, Holy Spirit, come. Come, Holy Spirit, come. The second ring of images on the outside edges of the rose window have more of a story. Each window has an image and the name of one of the 12 apostles. These, we find, are traditional symbols representing the apostles or images that depict their form of martyrdom. How are these related to our central theme of the Holy Spirit? You may recall the story of Pentecost, found in the 2nd chapter of the Acts of the Apostles. 10 days after Jesus ascended into heaven, and 50 days after his resurrection, the apostles were gathered in an upper room out of fear of the Jewish authorities, when the Holy Spirit descended upon them in the form of tongues of fire, giving them the ability to speak in different languages, and perhaps most importantly, the courage to go out into the streets to proclaim the gospel message of Jesus Christ. From this moment on, the Holy Spirit equipped the apostles to boldly travel to regions far away and to establish the church. Because of the work of the Holy Spirit in their hearts, they were unafraid to preach, and in doing so, all but one of the apostles actually gave their lives for the gospel. Only the Holy Spirit can give someone the courage to do that. Some of the images we find in these windows are not traditional images that we would recognize today, so let's take a look at them. Saint Philip is depicted by a pillar. Tradition holds that Philip traveled to Egypt to preach, where he was martyred after being whipped while tied to a pillar, and then later crucified on a cross. St. Thomas is the apostle best remembered for doubting Jesus' resurrection, but who later came to full faith after seeing the risen Lord and placing his fingers in Jesus' wounds. After Pentecost, we're told that Thomas traveled to India to spread the gospel message, where he was martyred by being speared to death, thus the symbol of the spear. St. James the Greater is symbolized by 3 items: a walking stick, a scalloped shell, and a water skin. After the events of Pentecost, James was the first apostle to make missionary journeys to establish the church, and he traveled to Spain. And there he was arrested and sent back to Rome, where he faced a martyr's death by stabbing and eventual beheading. He was the first of the apostles to die a martyr's death, and his death is recorded in the 12th chapter of the Acts of the Apostles. Faithful Christians wanted to bury James's body in Compostela in northwest Spain, so they loaded his body on a ship, which later encountered a storm and James's body fell off the ship. When they retrieved his body, legend says that it was covered with scallop shells. So the walking stick in this window represents James's missionary journeys. The scallop shell represents the legend of his body after his death, and the water skin is what was used by those on a journey to hold the water that was scooped up by the shell for drinking. Even today, the scallop shell is symbolic of pilgrims on a journey, particularly marking the 500-mile path known as the Camino from southern France to northwest Spain that many pilgrims still walk today. St. Bartholomew is represented by a flaying knife. It's commonly held that Bartholomew traveled to India to spread the gospel message, and it was there that he was martyred by being skinned alive. St. Jude Thaddeus is represented by a knotted club. He traveled to the region of Persia, or modern-day Iran, where he faced his death by clubbing. There is another tradition about Jude that states that he was killed by an axe, and then his body shot through with arrows. St. John is the only one of the apostles to die a natural death, though some legends state that it wasn't for lack of his enemies to try to kill him. One legend states that the emperor tried to boil John in oil, but he survived it unscathed. Another legend states that he was offered a poisoned chalice, but after making the sign of the cross over the cup, he was able to drink it without any harm. John later died naturally after being exiled to the island of Patmos in Greece, where he had a series of visions that he recorded and that we can now read in the book of Revelation. The image we find in his window is that of a chalice with a snake in it, reminding us of that legend of the poisoned cup. St. Matthias was not one of the original apostles, but was chosen by lot after Judas Iscariot, Jesus' betrayer, committed suicide. It's believed that Matthias remained in the area of Judea in southern Israel and was murdered by being hacked to death. So the image we have for him is the battle axe. Tradition holds that St. Andrew, the brother of St. Peter, traveled to Greece to preach, where he was murdered by crucifixion on an X-shaped cross. But instead of being nailed to the cross, as Jesus was, Andrew's hands and feet were tied with cords, which served to prolong his torture. St. James the Lesser remained in the area of Jerusalem and became the first bishop of Jerusalem. Tradition states that his enemies tried to force him to stop preaching about Jesus, but James refused. So they took him to the top of the temple and threw him off. But he survived, and he was beaten to death by what is known as a fuller's club, which is the image we have in this window. Saint Simon is represented by a saw. While one tradition states that Simon died by crucifixion while in Turkey, the most common tradition states that he was sawed in half after having preached in Persia. St. Peter is depicted by the keys, which is the most popular symbol for St. Peter, recalling the very well-known story in Matthew's Gospel of Jesus handing to Peter the keys to the kingdom of heaven, in effect granting him authority to speak and act in Jesus' name as the first pope. While not depicted in our window, it was while in Rome that St. Peter was martyred by crucifixion. But because Peter felt unworthy to die in the same way as Jesus, he requested that he be crucified upside down. St. Matthew is one of the gospel writers. He is depicted by a hatchet. Tradition holds that he traveled to Africa, specifically the country of Ethiopia, and it was there that he died when he was stabbed in the back, possibly with a hatchet, as depicted in our window. Tradition states that he was attacked and died while saying Mass. After seeing all these images in our rose window, what is the main lesson that we can take away? It's really important to realize that the same Holy Spirit that emboldened the apostles with so much courage and strength and faith and love so that they could go out and win souls for Christ is the very same Holy Spirit that's given to us in our lives to fill us with all the virtues that we discussed and so many more. We are called to be modern-day disciples, modern-day apostles, to go out into the world and be bold messengers of the gospel to those who most need to hear it. And we can't do it on our own. We need power from God, and that comes through the Holy Spirit. Jesus promised us that we would receive power from on high, and through that power we would do amazing things in his name. So if you ever feel afraid, or you don't think that you have enough strength or courage or patience, or you lack faith or hope or love, turn to the Holy Spirit, and he will open up your heart and fill it up with gifts from on high. So until next time, when we will continue our journey through the stained glass windows here at St. Anne's, let us pray, and let us pray often. Come, Holy Spirit, come. Come, fill the hearts of your faithful, Lord. Come, Holy Spirit, come.